Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Rest, and this is the second video on the Become a Conqueror support series I'm doing. In this video, I'll explain why dual lane with a marksman and support is bad, how to play support as a roam, and how to help your team push for the objectives. So the reason why the dual lane meta is bad is because of three different reasons. The first one is because you're running a marksman in the side lane, typically on the dragon side of the map. And then marksmen need a lot of gold and XP to scale, which you do not get through the lane as you would in the jungle, which is where marksmen are currently excelling at high elo. And then the reason why other side laners like Malak, Chugnar, or Scud are so strong currently as dragon side laners are simply because they can trade well in lane, have good level 4 power spikes, and can frontline for your team or dive the enemy carries. So you have the marksman in one lane with the support. Oh, I'm trying to draw a bow here. This guy will have a nice little shield. Boom, support marksman. Anyways, if you have the marksman and support in one lane, you're going to be splitting all that gold and XP between both of the heroes for a long period of time. As I mentioned before in the first season, marksman needs lots of gold and XP to do well in the game, and if the support is sitting in the lane the entire time, the marksman might never scale. The support would be a lot more useful if you're constantly rotating instead of having to babysit a hero as well. You could be getting vision on the enemy team. Oh, I need to draw this little stick figure with the shield again. Boom, keeping vision for his team over here with that shield. Yeah, you could be keeping vision for your team and seeing where the enemy jungler is. Like, you could be seeing if he's doing his blue buff, red buff, or if they're taken recently. Or you can see the dead camps after they die. That's a dead thing. Anyways, yeah. But you could see if they just recently took a camp, and then you could just estimate where they are on the map and warn your enemies by using the danger ping. And then you can also be keeping vision so you can take objectives like the dragon or dark slayer, getting those ganks off so you can push down these towers. Or even invading the enemy jungler with your jungler, who, let's say it's Zephyrus. That's Zephyrus, by the way. So what high elo players do instead of running that double lane meta is they do what I just suggested to do as a support, is just constantly roam across the map, get vision on the enemy jungler and see where he is, and warn your teammates accordingly, and try to counter gank or be ready for him to gank. And then you'll mostly be sitting around this mid lane for a majority of the game as a support, because you'll be working a lot with him and the jungler, since he can clear waves quick as a mage, and he's good with ganking. And you also want to make sure that he isn't getting ganked, since there is lots of different ways to gank that lane. Let me erase all this and show you guys. Yeah, mid lane with these two bushes right here can get ganked a lot, and then enemies can dash over that wall, and you won't be able to see them unless you have proper vision. And then they can also come in and gank through there. And the side laners and jungler, yeah, everyone just wants to kill mid laner the whole game. So mostly as a support, you'll be middle oriented and keeping that vision, and then rotating around with that mid laner and jungler. So when you're running the support as a roam instead of that double lane, you're going to run down through here, and then you can either split this way if you're trying to keep vision control over here, and if you think the enemies can be invading the red. You want them to be on this side with the jungler, and that way if they do invade that buff, you can just go ahead and rotate and go through there. Another one to start is you can run down the mid lane, and then go into one of these side bushes, and try to get some damage off on their mid laner. Here he is looking all happy. Doesn't know what's about to happen to him. I'm trying to draw Ignis, by the way, but I'm not very good at it. Yeah, you're just going to be sitting in those bushes and try to get damage off on him. And then through sitting through here, you also get the vision on these sides. And that's good for your team, so then you know if they're invading on one of those sides that you're at. And then you can help your jungler or invade accordingly. And then the other one is basically the first one that I talked about, is where you run through, not through there, through there. If then your jungler is starting red buff, and then your side laner should be keeping vision over here, and if they do come and invade, you too, and your side laner should come too, and you guys go and take that buff, and then you just trade. The reason why you want to go ahead and trade for these buffs instead of trying to contest them most of the time is because if you do try to contest, even if you have the same amount, it's always very dangerous to fight level 1 as it's unpredictable, and losing a level 1 fight can get a lot stolen from you. That whole jungle side and their jungler will secure theirs. You'll be down in levels, and it's just a huge gold lead to the enemy team. So the next part I'm going to go over won't always happen since this is ranked or solo queue for most of you guys, and this is just like the ideal scenario. What you're mostly going to be doing for those level 1 through 4, just going to erase this really quick, is you're going to be keeping vision on where the enemy jungler is, trying to make sure that he isn't going to be able to get a gank off and one of your side laners die, because that would be bad, and then they have a numbers advantage on you to take objectives or push those towers. So to keep that vision, you're mostly going to want to be sticking. So let's say you started through here, right? And then most of the time, enemy junglers are going to be starting on their blue buff. So you can just go ahead and pop over there after a few seconds, and after you're able to trade with that mid laner or something, get some damage off on him. Yeah, you'll come over here, and then you'll see that he didn't start his red buff. And then if your solo laner did his job, then you'll know that they didn't invade the red buff to start off the game. So he started at this location. Look at him all happy, taking his jungle. Yeah, now you know his location where he is. And so you can go ahead and let your team know what will be going on through pings. And then close to that 130 mark, or 120 to 130 is when junglers should have completed that full rotation of getting all their jungle. And then you should be able to warn your side laner, because he will be coming in for that gank through one of those paths. And he shouldn't die if he's listening to you. Alright? And so, with that as well, on that level 1, you need to make sure that you do not soak any XP from any waves or the jungle. Because if you do, that's going to put them behind getting to level 2 and level 4. And then it's just a huge disadvantage for your team. However, on the second wave, in the mid lane, typically the support will soak a little bit of XP through sitting in one of these side bushes. You can reveal yourself and help push it, but it's better to keep the enemy guessing where you're at and keep in vision for your team. So you can go ahead and take a little bit of XP from here and hit that level 2, and then from there, you typically won't want to be taking any more XP unless you're taking the enemy jungle. Alright, and at that 2-minute mark is when the dragon will be spawning, and so you'll be wanting to keep vision on where the enemy jungle is throughout that early game. And that way you know if you're able to do the dragon at 2 minutes, or you can try to get a gank off on that laner or the mid laner to get an advantage, or maybe even get a pick on the jungler. While your team is taking the dragon, you'll typically want to be keeping vision in one of those bushes. Wait, let me erase so you guys can know a little bit better what I'm meaning. In one of these bushes, right there, right there, right there. Or if the map is flipped and this is the enemy side, you'll be wanting to keep vision in that bush. This allows your team to be able to secure the jungle, or sorry, not the jungle, the dragon, without it being contested, and that way it's safe and not a risk. Because if it does get stolen, then that's a lot of gold and XP that's going to be going over to the enemy team. And typically after that first dragon is when you're going to want to start pushing down one of those side towers, or maybe even the mid tower if you can get a good team fight off. And so to get those side towers, let's say your team is pushing for this one, and your jungler is rotating through. So what you're trying to do is you'll be setting up the gank by sneaking into that bush typically, or you can be in that bush to keep vision on seeing where the enemies are and zoning them off as well from coming protecting, and you can cut that wave with your side laner. But you'll be trying to get the side laner poked down or low enough or have a numbers advantage where they're not able to protect that. Typically you'll need 3 people to the enemy's 1, or maybe like 4 to 2 with your enemy mid laner to the enemy's side laner or support. And so after you're able to get that tower, you open up this whole side of the map, and that is now usually typically your control, maybe even that far up. And so from there, you'll be trying to take, sorry, didn't mean to circle that. You'll be wanting to push for and constantly keeping control of that blue buff, taking the enemy jungle if possible, and then trying to push down these other towers. And on this side, you'll want to do the same thing, keeping vision through those bushes there. You can cut the wave with your enemy side laner if there's no lane there already and you're waiting for one to approach up from there. And then you'll want to have that numbers advantage again, or have the mid laner, sorry, not the mid laner, the side laner go back home, or be able to lower enough that he isn't able to clear the wave and protect that tower. Right. And so after you get those side lane towers and you still don't have the mid one easy trick to do is keeping control vision of this area. And then you can collapse on them when you're ready to push for this tower with your team. And then if you're over there zoning the enemy team from coming in, they're not able to, sorry, I know there's a lot of drawings. they're not able to come in through that way because you're keeping them zoned off. And if they are underneath this tower, they're typically going to die, or they're going to try to flicker over this wall or behind you and just try to escape. Alright, so after you have these towers destroyed, that means your control of the map is typically going to look something like this. And from there on, you should be able to take all of this jungle pretty easily, and your next step will be to push down these towers and constantly trying to get that objective, and if Darkslayer is up, trying to get that at this point. So yeah, and to get these towers, you want to do that same thing where you're pushing in with your team and you're keeping vision in this bush and stopping enemies from rotating in. Then you can do that on this side as well. And for that mid tower, you can always rotate behind like that and do the same blocking off tactic that we used earlier for this tower. And then after you have all of these towers destroyed, and then it's just the remaining towers, you now have all control of the map besides their base. So getting all these objectives should be pretty easily at this point of the map. And so to try to be able to siege down these towers can be very hard to do. So what you typically try to do is 4 over here and 1 there. Or you can try to do the opposite. Let me just erase that. Where you have 4 over here. Oh, that's a bad color. 4 over here and then 1 over here pushing to get those towers. And you can even try to do the 4 over here and the 1 on either side. And you want to be trying to keep all these waves pushed up and poking the enemies down so they have to back. And hopefully by the time this wave is cleared, you have another one hitting in one of those side waves. Or with the 4-1, you want to have both waves hitting at the same time. That way they have to split their heroes. And typically to be able to push into that base, you'll need the Darkslayer buff, unless you're just super far ahead. And that Darkslayer buff will give you the bonus damage that you need to be able to push into those towers and end the game. Alright, so that's all I have for this video. Hopefully this has been a helpful video for you, and it explains why the dual lane meta is bad, with my awesome drawings of it, of course, and then the roaming across the map, and how to push and end the games. Make sure to subscribe and like this channel for all my future videos, which will mostly be support oriented, as well as helping you understand the basics of the game.